Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain, day 222 of the current situation, and Spain is again in the record books today, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, as I said, the country is again in the record books today, and it is because, as we can see here from this headline, Spain has become the first Western European country to pass 1 million COVID cases. 6 weeks after becoming the first Western European country to record 500,000 coronavirus cases, Spain has become the first to record 1 million, registering a total of 1,005,295 infections by Wednesday evening. It has also recorded 575 deaths over the past week, bringing the official number of COVID deaths to 34,366. The unwelcome landmark comes as the Spanish government mulls a curfew and as political bickering and grandstanding threaten to jeopardize the country's efforts to tame the second wave of the virus. So there we go, Spain passing that 1 million case mark, and as we saw there in that text, in 6 weeks, 500,000 cases have been added to the total. So we'll see how quickly we reach the next milestones of 1.5 million and 2 million cases respectively. Now, as we have seen in recent times, the buzzwords in Spain currently are curfew, confinement restrictions, and we can see here that the autonomous community of Aragon has decided to close the cities of Zaragoza, Huesca and Teruel, and La Rioja has also announced the perimeter confinement. The entire community of Aragon will go to phase 3 next Monday. And the reason for Aragon imposing these new restrictions is because of uncontrolled rates of contagion. And especially alarming is the spread that is occurring in Teruel, where an accumulated rate in the last 14 days of 1,418 cases per 100,000 people has been reached. Transmission has also skyrocketed in Huesca, and there are now 1,003 cases per 100,000 inhabitants. So uncontrolled rates of contagion in Aragon, and we also saw there in La Rioja, they have decided to close down the autonomous community in similar fashion to that of Navarra, so nobody is allowed in or out of those two autonomous communities unless they have good reason. Now, the Health Minister Salvador Illa has been doing the media rounds in recent days, and he came out this morning and said if it is found that measures do not work, more drastic measures must be taken. The minister spoke today on a radio show of the epidemiological situation of the coronavirus in our country and has confirmed that the situation is not controlled. The minister insists that there are very hard months until a vaccine can be administered and advocates taking more drastic measures if the ones that are being applied are found not to work. And while we are on the topic of the health department, they are said to be negotiating in extremis common measures for the whole country. However, the Canary Islands and the Balearic Islands want to be excluded from the curfew, while the Basque Country wants other options. So the health minister coming out there and saying that if the current measures to control the coronavirus here in Spain are not successful, more drastic measures will be used. So he's talking about possible curfews, and of course Madrid is most likely going to be the first place in Spain to impose a curfew this weekend on its citizens. We can see here that the health minister has also assured that Madrid will adopt tough measures that will be announced this Friday. The vast majority of European countries are preparing to adopt drastic measures against the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, which in Spain has already exceeded 1 million cases, and where the authorities are studying a possible curfew, such as the one adopted in France for large cities and in various Italian regions. In this way, the health department recommends leaving home only when necessary in municipalities with more than 10,000 inhabitants in the 11 autonomous communities that have a high alert level. And if we go to the bottom of the text here, we can see the planned Madrid curfew, and they're planning to control to the maximum movements of people between 12 midnight and 6 a.m. But of course, we'll get a better idea of what exactly is going to happen in Madrid when they announce the new measures tomorrow. Now let's have a look at the current health situation in Spain by looking at a map of the whole country and different autonomous communities. Starting with this one here of the whole country, we can see the total number of cases there. the amount of new cases, the amount of cases diagnosed in the last 24 hours, and the nationwide cumulative incidence rate sits at 332.69, and there were 575 deaths in the last 7 days. Moving on here to the Madrid community, we can see the total number of cases. The cumulative incidence rate sits at 432.26. Deaths in the last 7 days, 113. And here we'll look at the hospital pressure because it's more important to look at this in the context of the autonomous communities. And we can see that there are 3,152 people currently in hospital because of COVID in Madrid, and there are currently 495 patients in ICU, and that translates to 39.25% of all ICUs. Catalonia now, we can see the total number of cases. The cumulative incidence rate sits at 401.1. Deaths in the last 7 days, 8. And hospital pressure there, the current amount of COVID patients sits at 2,506. And patients in ICU sits at 330. Navarra now, we can see the total amount of cases. The cumulative incidence rate sits at 1,021.68. Deaths in the last 7 days, 36. And hospital pressure there, we can see 296 current COVID patients, and there are 38 COVID patients in ICUs, which is a saturation rate of 29.23%. And finally, we'll have a look at the Valencian community. We can see the total amount of cases. The cumulative incidence rate there sits at 132.3. Deaths in the last 7 days, 26. And we can see the hospital pressure situation in Valencia, 802 current COVID patients, 129 in ICU, and that means that COVID patients are currently occupying 12.62% of all ICU beds at the moment in Valencia. Now, we all know that the hotel sector here in Spain has been smashed by the pandemic, and that has led to various hoteliers deciding to close until 2022, and they're asking for credit moratoriums. 4 hotel groups warn that until 2022, they will not have enough capacity to open normally, and that it will be in 2023 or 2024 when they begin to show positive numbers. So according to their calculations, 2022 is going to be the year when hotels start to recover and start to regain decent occupancy rates. Now, 2 of Spain's most influential businessmen, the owner of the Mercadona supermarket chain and the president of the bank Bankia, came out yesterday and said that they believe that it is a mistake to think only about the vaccine. Health and the economy are like breathing and eating. Breathe first, but if you don't eat, you die, says Mr. Roig. And the Bankia president said that thinking only about the vaccine makes us fatalistic. So there we go, a nice turn of phrase from the president of Mercadona. Health and the economy are like breathing and eating. Breathe first, but if you don't eat, you die. And finally, a piece of news that caught my attention, a piece of news related to the Golden Visa scheme. If you don't know what that is, basically if you invest a certain amount of money in some countries here in Europe, you are automatically granted residence. We can see here the big business of visas for wealthy foreigners. Spain has received 6.5 billion euros in exchange for granting 35,422 golden visas, a widespread way of attracting investments, but it's making the EU uncomfortable. Is it legal to provide residence visas and mobility or even European passports in exchange for investment? The answer from 20 EU states is yes, but the European Union's answer to that question is no. The financial crisis of 2008 promoted this way of collecting income, among whose main beneficiaries is Spain. The 35,422 gold visas granted since 2013, 8,000 to Chinese citizens, have added some 6.5 billion euros to the treasury. The country in Europe that has made the most money from this scheme is Cyprus, and Cyprus, along with Malta and Bulgaria, not only give residency status, but they also grant passports. So the European Union, they're most likely going to crack down on the golden visa scheme. What do you think? Is this a good way for countries to get foreign investment? Let me know in the section below. Now, let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. One here from Tony. Hi Stuart, you said that British people will need the padrón to renew their residencia. I presume you are referring to Brexit. Our green A4 paper states residencia is permanent. Does this mean the rules will change and we will now have to renew our residencia, or will it be for new immigrants? Yeah, thanks for the question, Tony. And to be honest, I don't know about people that are currently living in Spain from the UK. If you've gone through the process previously, most likely your residency is permanent. I don't know. You'd probably have to check with somebody who knows a little bit more about that. Hopefully someone in the comment section will fill us in on that. But all I know is that in order for my residency to be renewed every 5 years, having that piece of paper, that padrón or empadronamiento as they call it, is necessary for me to get that permit renewed. And every now and again I get a letter in the mail telling me that I have to go to the local town hall here to prove that I still live in the same house or the same area. One here from Dean, heading down to Malaga from Canvey Island to start a new life. Spending the night in Rouen, 9 o'clock curfew here. Burgos tomorrow night. Hearing Spain is going to lock down. Will I get in? Had planned to quarantine on arrival in Malaga. Great job you're doing, Stuart. I enjoy your reports and neutral, honest views. Yeah, Dean, thanks for the comment. I mentioned in yesterday's video that the country is open. There's no problem to travel through the country. Obviously, you won't be able to go into certain places if they are closed. For example, La Rioja is closing, Navarra is closed. Burgos, I think at the moment, is closed. The city of Burgos is closed, but the province is not. So it's a little bit complicated. Madrid capital, you can't go in there, and various places around the city as well. But in the Madrid community, there are still places that are open. And if you needed to stop in Madrid, you could find a hotel on the outskirts of the city in a place that's not closed. So as I said, it's a bit complicated. Aragon also closing, but you should be able to get to Malaga with no problems if you are not there already. And for people that are planning to come to the country, keep that in mind that the foreign borders are open. You can come down through France, you can go into Portugal, you can travel across the country, you can travel through areas that have closed down as long as you're not planning to stay in those areas. So as I said, to go from the north of the country to the south of the country, you shouldn't have a problem. One here from Matthew. Hi Stuart, thanks for keeping us updated on the situation in Spain. It's a similar situation here in the UK. Plenty of experts voicing their opinions, rules changing almost daily, and the population really confused about what they should be doing and where they are allowed to travel to. I expect that the older folks are pretty scared and very confused by the information passed out and the misinformation spreading through social media. The younger people seem to be convinced that they are fireproof and are not affected. It doesn't seem to matter that they are the main reason this virus keeps spreading as it's reported. Let's hope the measures each government introduce actually works and this flaming bug gets under control pretty soon and we can all return to some sort of normality. Thanks again and keep posting. Cheers for now, Matt. Yeah, Matt, thanks for the comment. And you're right, the situation is identical in the majority of the countries in Europe at the moment. The UK, France, Spain, of course. Italy now starting to have problems again. Portugal, I mentioned the other day, starting to crack down as well. And as you said, some of the older folks must be pretty scared with what's going on at the moment. And it's the younger generations that are surprising me. I see images on the TV every day of parties that are out of control, people not respecting the rules, people doing whatever they like. And this is probably, as you said, one of the reasons why the virus continues to spread. I don't know what we have to do to convince the younger generations, but it seems to be that the more you tell them to stop, the harder they go. And they're taking the PI55 at the moment, in my opinion. And regarding social media and the misinformation, well, it seems in a lot of cases to be doing more harm than good, unfortunately. But hey, that's the way social media works. When you give everybody a voice, what do you expect? One here from Klein's Productions. Ola Stuart, do you know which will be the specific restrictions for every level of alert? My girlfriend is in Madrid, whereas I'm in Italy, and at the moment we don't know when we'll meet again. By the way, really great videos. Keep it up. Love your accent. Yeah, Klein, thanks for the comment, and sorry to see that you were separated from your girlfriend at the moment. I know that there are many, many people around the world in a similar situation to you, people that can't travel to see their partners, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their kids, and it is a very difficult time for many. Now, I'm not 100% sure on what the different restrictions are going to be, because as we know, there's going to be 4 levels, and it's all going to depend on the incidence rates in particular areas. So for example, now in Madrid, we're talking about a curfew coming in this weekend. Other places are closing down the entire autonomous communities so that nobody is allowed in or out. So it's a little bit confusing at the moment, but hopefully it will be clarified in coming days exactly what the government is planning to do. But I imagine that the alert situation is going to be similar to the phase situation they had earlier in the year, where there are restrictions on what you can and can't do, which places are allowed to open, which places have to remain closed, how many people can get together, where you can travel to. I'm sure that the specific restrictions will be similar to those, and also with this new curfew situation, which I mentioned will be implemented in various places around Spain in coming days. One here from Michael. So a nationwide curfew is on the cards. Talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Here in the Canaries, we have some of the lowest COVID-19 rates in the world and are desperately trying to get air corridors open to save the winter tourist season. Gee whiz, and thanks. Yeah, Michael, thanks for the comment, but I think the Canary Islands won't impose the curfew. I think the numbers there are a bit different to the rest of the country. And that's one of the things that the health minister said this morning on the radio, that different places will have different restrictions. And he did mention the Canary Islands as one of the places that will have the least restrictions, and they won't be comparable, for example, to a place like Madrid. So I don't think we're going to have a nationwide lockdown again. It's going to be individual this time. That's what they're pushing for. And if the Canary Islands manages to keep their numbers down, then the restrictions shouldn't be so bad, or at least not as bad as in some of the other parts of Spain. One here from James. Get 2 softbox lighting kits. They will fill in your video frame with diffuse light, and you can fold them up after shooting. Not expensive either. Yeah, James, thanks for the comment. I mentioned in yesterday's video that lighting is one of my weak points when it comes to video production. To be honest, there are other weak points as well, but lighting is the main one. Very difficult for me to get perfect lighting, but I'll take your advice on board and look into some softbox lighting kits. And I'm going to be honest, when I began making videos, I didn't know that this was such a difficult thing to do. So many things to take into consideration: lighting, sound, image. All of those things have to come together well, and to be honest, it's not easy to do. But I try to improve, I try to get better sound, I try to get better lighting, and I hope you all appreciate the effort that I'm making. And finally, one from Jose Antonio. Some English words puzzle me, like nightmare, kidnap, or curfew. It seems to me that there is a tale behind those words. I learned the etymology of curfew last night reading the book At Home, A Short History of Private Life by Bill Bryson. Yes, it comes from an interesting story. Yeah, Jose Antonio, thanks for the comment. And to be honest, some English words puzzle me too. The word curfew being one of those. I also looked up the etymology the other day, and it's something about putting out fires that comes from French many centuries ago. So there you go, an interesting word. And the other ones you mentioned there, kidnap and nightmare. And good to see that you're reading Bill Bryson, a very entertaining author. And I would recommend his books to anyone looking to improve their English. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.